Hello and good evening. As usual, we'll give just a few moments for folks to log into the Zoom and then we'll get started.
While the board's waiting, I wanted to take a moment and thank Rachel, our food service manager, who's here this evening, and it's Board Appreciation Month. There are goodies available for everyone in the room, and thank you, Rachel, for putting that together.
I call this meeting of the South Liberty School Board to order. We'll begin with our land acknowledgement. Director Jackson.
Thank you. We acknowledge that we live and work on Indigenous land, the land of the Snohomish peoples, past, present, and future. And I invite you to read the written statement that appears on our website and on the wall in this room. But I would actually like to spend this moment talking a little bit about how we create and co-evolve such statements, because they are living testimonials to our relationships with one another, with place, with history, with future. And I was very grateful to receive feedback from a community member, which had been passed forward from Snohomish community members, about how our land acknowledgement can evolve. So I was invited to learn more about how many of the Indigenous people who make their home here and who have historically made their home here in this part of this island, formerly known as Chikolchi, were Snohomish tribal members and are Snohomish tribal members. And while we acknowledge many tribes for whom this place was culturally and relationally very significant, the Snohomish people may be the ones with whom we have the most opportunity today for local present relationship. We also have the tribes that are collectively affiliated with the Tulalip tribes. Tulalip is not a tribe. Tulalip is a reservation that is sovereign territory of community members who are successors to the interest of signatories to the Treaty of Point Elliott, signed in Mukilteo in 1855. The Stillaguamish, Suquamish, and Snohomish people and other tribes, as I understand it, are members of the broader Lushootseed language family, connected through language and through trade and culture and relations. And many of those tribes fall into what we would call the Coast Salish tribes. So I have much to learn. There are people among us who live here in our community today who are part of these families and communities and tribes from whom we can learn. There are also books on the subject, wonderful resources online about the Lushootseed language family and about the Tulalip tribe's current offerings. There's actually a book being held up in the audience in the room here today, a book that was just recommended to me this evening, which I'll be eagerly reading. So I'll leave it at that, and an invitation to myself and others to keep learning and connecting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As always, on point and delightfully detailed. Thank you. We'll move on to just a small note about the public comment section. This is a business meeting. We will have public comment right after our presentations. At that time, there will be an opportunity for anyone in the audience in person to speak for up to 5 minutes. Talk to Ms. Macaro in the back if you'd like to do that. If you are on Zoom and would like to speak during that time, or rather have a statement that I will read, you may put your name and location in the Q&A function and then start typing up what you'd like read. And that's the time at which I will do that. All comments will be within the realm of our new communications policy, which we've spent several months working on and we're quite happy and proud of. We'll move on from there to, are there any objections to approving the minutes and agenda as presented? Hearing none, the minutes and agenda are approved as presented. We'll move on to point 2. Carter, just note, moving on to section 2. We're tracking timestamps when we move sections so that we can put timestamps into the YouTube video so things are easier to find. So the consent agenda. Is there any objection to approving the consent agenda as presented? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved as presented. We'll move on. Oh,
I just wanted to mention one thing in the consent agenda. You've approved a lease for the Snow Isle Library that's currently located in Langley to relocate temporarily, and we're really happy to house them at the community center. And just want to make sure that folks, that I know the library will do a lot of outreach about where they're going to be located temporarily, but we're really happy to be able to offer that space. They are, of course, paying rent, but we're really pleased to be able to accommodate the library.
thank you for adding that detail. We'll move on to recognitions. Dr. Moshe, if you want to take that away.
This is a particularly happy time when we get to acknowledge the hard work and volunteering of their time of the board, members who are elected and our student representatives who give so much of their time to help us lead our school district. So we have placed a recognition certificate at each board member's place. So hopefully it's suitable for framing and that you will be proud, use that proudly. But we also have a very special presentation by our two folks who run our library, Sue Ann Brewer and Val Brown, who always make this evening very exciting for our board members. So Val and Sue Ann, if you would come on up to the mic and make sure it's on, and looking forward to your presentation. If you take mine, there is.
We would like to reiterate our thanks to all of you and the time that you put in to make our schools are today. So just a little note here, Val and I look forward to going out and looking for these books. We talk a lot about each of you and what your interests are. And then we go on a quest to try to find something that we think our students would like to read, but also has some connection to you and your interests and personalities. So with that being said, hopefully you enjoy this year's collection of books for presentation. No, it's Carter. So a very popular section in, I think, both of our libraries is graphic novels. And graphic novels have come a really long way to break down a lot of barriers for reluctant readers. So several choices tonight are graphic novels, and that includes the first one, Carter. This one is for you. And this book is called This Was Our Pact. It is a book about some boys that get together to go on a quest after an autumnal equinox. They want to go on an adventure, and ultimately all of them quit except for the one kid that no one wants to hang out with, and the kid who wishes that that kid wasn't following him. But they embark on this adventure and become friends along the way. So it's about something that can bring you together, but also encourage you to take some chances. So enjoy reading that. And then when you're finished, you can go to the library for other students. All right. Next is, oh. We'll wait. Marnie, you're up. Again, another graphic novel. This one's called Wildfire. This is about a young girl who lives in Oregon and her family experiences of a fire where they lose their farm. And then it's about climate change and how her anger, it gets channeled into a positive experience at her school where she finds out that one of the students may have had a hand in the fire itself, but then she has to come to terms with that and then move forward and demonstrate in a positive way. So, wow.
I'll do this one and then we'll come back to Katja. This Red Shoes is a book that we chose for Andrea. And the first time I met Andrea was here in this room and we were talking about curriculum adoption. And Andrea was adamant that all cultures were represented and women were represented. And this is a beautiful story of a little girl who finds a pair of red shoes and wants them really badly. Her grandmother gets them for her. And she has so much fun with the red shoes, then she grows out of them. And she donates them to a thrift store where an aunt of a child in Africa buys them and sends them to the little girl who was fasting. And it's just a beautiful story that thought of you when we saw it.
Do we back to
Yep.
Katja? Okay. So Katja, we picked this for high school, but it's about a girl who lives in Portland, Oregon, and then has to leave her hometown for boring Seattle. And so, so to help her settle in her new life, they send her off to summer camp. Her phone, all these weird things start happening, and she has to out all the mysteries and what's going on. And it's kind of about endurance of friendship. A nod to our visitors that we.
Fun. Anne gets a twofer. Which is fun. These are both graphic novel adaptations of Anne of Green Gables. So it's a way to bring the classics in. This one is a retelling where it's Anne of West Philly. So it's a more modern retelling of them. So one's going in the 612 library and the other one's going in the 5 library. This book we could have given to any one of you. It was a tough choice. It's called Superheroes Without Capes, and it's profiles of 20 different people like Gandhi and Frida Kahlo. Just we thought of you, Joe, because you're very detail oriented and you are you delve into things, and we're hoping that kids will dive into this. And it's a accessible but oh, this is for Brooke because he's the big kahuna here.
There is an actual book.
Yeah,
but
that
we-
actually that's a joke. We thought Brooke would enjoy being the big cheese. You can skip to the next slide. What we did get for Brooke was Wings of Fire, and this is a really popular series at the elementary. It is also a very there's a graphic novel adaptation, which your daughter has just discovered, I think, last week in your reading. Awesome. So this one's dedicated to you. Or you've already seen it.
I think we already have that one because my daughter loves that series so much. I'm so excited to see another one of them in the
Yeah, we didn't have
library.
this one yet.
Yeah, I just hope that I can keep her from checking that out since she's got it at home so someone else can check it out.
You get a book.
Joe, We chose Living the Confidence Code. It was actually a toss-up to give you or Andrea this book because of both of you showing leadership as well as being such great role models. But these are real girls, real stories, and real confidence. And it's about basically looking at 30 stories of girls from Bali to Brazil, South Africa to Seattle, Australia to Afghanistan, pursuing their passions, struggling and stumbling, but along the way figuring out how to build their own special brand of confidence. And so showing confidence and leadership, our girls, I think this is half of many, all of you.
The last one, we know that Dan isn't a board member, but because it's his last year here, we wanted to recognize Coleman. And so we chose Hidden Figures because it's about amazing people doing some really serious math. And if you've ever sat through a budget presentation, you know what I'm talking about. So,
No pun intended, Hidden Figures. So thank you so much again for all that you do and in giving us this opportunity because we certainly enjoy it and we know our students will enjoy reading as well on your behalf.
So can I add something about the red shoes? When I was a classroom teacher, I worked mostly with special ed students who had social emotional behavioral disabilities. We had to teach a lot of social skills. And before there were zones of regulation, there was Mrs. Swearis's shoe chart. And what my students noticed was that depending on my mood, my heels got higher. And so they started making a game about keeping me in flats. And we had a whole poster about what shoes meant what emotion. Red shoes were on there, but it was really about the heel height. And I would change my shoes throughout the day to help them visually see how their actions impacted others. I still have that poster, but it spread like wildfire across the school. And so I would hear other kids whispering like, oh, those are green shoes. Oh, those are yellow shoes. And it was very funny. So this was a very good choice.
well, it has nice ties to Poverty and Awareness Month.
Yep.
So.
These are always so wonderful. We really appreciate the thought that goes into them. And thank you very much for everything you do as well.
And once again, thank you to the school board for your leadership and for your dedication and for all the time that you spend on behalf of the students of our school district.
Thank you. We'll move on to presentations. We start with our food service report from Rachel Matthews.
All right, is this on? Okay. First, I'm gonna invite you to get up and go grab some food while I'm talking. So I'm gonna have the board go first, and then it is open for everybody because there's lots of food, and otherwise it just has to go back to the fridge. So please go grab some food, and then you can listen to me talk for 15 minutes, hopefully. Hopefully less, but. That's what Marty said, and she's like, oh, okay. I'll be having some right after I talk, because I didn't have dinner either yet. I told the staff, I'm like, you might see my dirty dishes in your sink. And all that. I'm not turning the dishwasher on just for that. Yeah, you're welcome. Of course. Simple, kind of a weird hodgepodge, but I don't want to take it back to the kitchen. Students might like it tomorrow, but but go eat. Otherwise, it's just gonna sit. Um, you're welcome. You're welcome. Okay. So thank you for letting me speak to you again this year. Go ahead, next slide, Christy, please. So today I'm just going to talk to you, just like last year, just our highlights of what we're doing, what we're focusing on, and also what's to come, and also highlighting our fantastic four. We've got 4 people on staff right now. Top 2 are the high school lunch ladies, Michelle and Patty, and then below them are Shauna and Allison at the elementary school. Go ahead, next slide. All right, so we focused this year again on scratch cooking. Again, 93 to 95% of the menu is scratch cooked. We do very few things that are take and bake or anything that we just kind of unwrap and put in the oven. Locally grown produce, obviously, we're still focusing on that. Brian and our farm, I think last year was his first year, so we were kind of just getting on track. But this year is awesome. We've already purchased 227 pounds, and the garden has gone to sleep. But it just woke up, so the carrots you have are the first thing of the season, or for this coming season. We literally got them tonight. I picked them up an hour ago. So you get them before the students get them, but they will be showing up on the line. We're trying some new recipes, new variety items, and then also trying to get feedback from both students and parents as well as staff. Next slide. And one more slide. School farm, I just mentioned we've focused on them, 227 pounds. We had 700 pounds last year that we purchased, so we're on track to do the same, if not a little bit more. And next one. We also do a little bit of catering. We've had 7 events so far, and they range from community events, Harvest Feast obviously is a big one, back to school meeting, and then just various things throughout the year. We try to do seasonal pairings as much as possible when the garden's available. I think people look for that, so we're happy that we have the garden to kind of inspire us to make a menu out of. Next slide. Innovative programs. So we have 2 programs I'm going to highlight. Next slide. The first one's Discovery Kitchen. So just like last year, every month we theme something on the menu to incorporate a different recipe or something new. So next slide. This year so far we had October is the Seed to Table month, so we did a butternut squash mac and cheese at all schools. It was K-12. It was really well received. The little kids really liked it also. They seem to like all mac and cheese in general, the cauliflower mac and cheese and the squash. The bottom one is November Let's Get Cooking. So we made scratch zucchini muffins and also scratch pumpkin muffins for the first time this year, and they've been really popular. They actually feel like they're actually more popular than the blueberry and the strawberry ones, which is great. And then December, Spice It Up month. So we made a buffalo broccoli as well. So we just kind of mixed in Frank's hot sauce and roasted them. And that was also popular. We actually ran out before middle school was finished, unfortunately. So we'll make that again. Next slide. Mood Boost is the second program. That one's really tying in. It's K-5, kind of geared toward the K-5. It's really trying to talk to the kids about like, if you eat food, this food, it helps, carrots are good for your eyesight, or if you eat a full lunch, it's going to make you feel better through the day and get through your class and have more energy. Next slide. And those are just some of the ones we've done so far. So we made carrot fries, which is in the bottom there, also very popular. We made a melon salad. We've done that a few times. That's another one they've requested. Grilled peppers and also like the blueberry parfait. We also did a blueberry smoothie that was new this year. Next slide. We also started last spring celebrating Heritage Months and other fun days. So next slide. So top left is the Lucky Tray Day. So every month we do a Lucky Tray Day, and it's literally a random tray the kid will pick up and they win a prize. It's something like a bubble wand or a bracelet or a backpack, sunglasses, just little things. And we do them once each lunch session. So there's 3 winners every month. So there's just a couple pictures of the kiddos. We also try to do the fun days. You know, you'll hear like it's Taco Tuesday or we're celebrating Pancake Day or whatever it may be. So we've done that with various things, as well as Taste of Washington Day is always in October. So we participated in that. We used a bunch of garden produce and we made a stir fry. And then we also did an apple crisp with Washington apples. As well as the Heritage Months. So Native American Heritage Month, we did a blueberry wild rice side dish. And then we also did Latin Heritage Month. That one, we really incorporated the whole menu. There were probably, I think, 6 or 7 recipes throughout the month that were tacos, enchiladas, fajitas, nachos, and same with Italian Heritage Month. Upcoming, we've got a Blueberry Pancake Day coming. That's the 29th, and then also Lucky Tray Days come back on the 31st. Next slide. Just another quick shout out to our team members. So next slide. So our staff, like I said, there's only 4 of them. They serve the whole school. So what, 1,200, 1,300 kids. And they come in early. They're here usually between 5:30 and 6 in the morning. When it's snowy and icy and all those different things. But they're here and they're always just get right to it. They work really hard to get everything out, especially with those scratch cooking. As you all know, it does take longer to do the scratch cooking than it does to do anything else. But we're really grateful that the district supports that as well, and gives us that extra time to make some scratch food. Next slide. So what we've done so far, I mentioned the Harvest Feast already. We also switched over at the high school to plates versus the foam trays. We did that this year. We're trying to go as close to zero waste as possible. The elementary school we started last year, or went back to it after COVID, and that was great, but we hadn't done it at the high school. So it was really nice to get the plates in. We haven't lost or broken as many as I thought we would by now, which is awesome. And we're still looking into ways that we can kind of get closer to zero waste. Discovery Kitchen, samples. We also do samples throughout the year. So we've done, we did a Brussels sprout, we did an apple crisp, I already mentioned, just various little things. We'll just throw out extra little samples. And then Mood Boost, I mentioned, scan cards at the elementary school. So before they had to say their name and we had to look them up every single time. Now they have scan cards. So they literally come through and they scan their card and they continue on their way. It also gives our staff a way to stop and look at their plate and make sure it's qualified, because otherwise we wouldn't get credit from OSPI. So that's been great. Parent meeting, Susie was nice enough to invite me to coffee with the principal one day. Brooke was there, and that was really fun to meet with probably about 20 parents or so and get their feedback one-on-one and see what they were looking for, what their kids were asking for. And one of the things was actually that they never knew when a farm, carrot, lettuce, anything was on. And part of that was just because my menus are out 6 weeks in advance, and the farm I get about 4 days notice before I find out what I'm going to get. So we created a little peach jar, and also Deanne sends out now on Parrot Square. We just did it today, or we're going to work on it today. Like a 2-week notice of, hey, here's what I got from the garden. Here are the days we're going to plan to serve it. So hopefully we can get some extra information out there to parents. The smoothie bike. So we actually won a smoothie bike. Ecology Club used it for making smoothies during lunch and when they did their club day. Parent survey we sent out in fall and got feedback. I'm hoping to do another one in spring. We did a principal survey also in fall. I hope to do another one in spring. Social media and also through the Navigator. We've really tried to promote anything we're doing to get, again, the word out there. And so we've been really trying to take pictures, post it, just try to get people informed. And then lastly is just those catering events again. Next slide. Waste audit at the middle school, high school. We just did that. It was a 3-day thing. They are still writing up their reports, and I should have them at the end of the week. And they'll be proposing solutions or ideas of how we can get closer to zero waste. We already had a couple ideas come up, which was awesome. So we'll start doing those. Nutrition classes at the K-5. Typically I do that in the fall. I was just behind the 8 ball on that one, so we'll do it in the spring. And also partnering with the culinary class. They do something called Pass the Plate, and they create these recipes and they make them in culinary class over the next month. They have 4 of them, and we think all 4 are gonna make it on our menu. So I'm hoping we're gonna check their ingredients. Student survey again and parent survey, we'll do one more towards the springtime. Next slide. And that's it for us. Do you have any questions for me?
First of all, thank you so much for this presentation, and also, more importantly, for running our food service program. It's such a top-notch program. It's really something that we can be proud of. Also, specifically, thank you for trying to eliminate waste. I think that's really great example to set for our students to see that you can run a successful program and still try to cut down on waste. My question is about how you conceive of success for the program. It can be numbers based, or it could just be qualitative. But yeah, what does success look like for you, and how are you doing compared to the vision?
Sure. I think we do it two ways. One is obviously numbers, participation numbers. It's an easy one to track. Lunch this year is up. Breakfast is a little bit down. We're still trying to figure out why it's down. The K-5 campus, we attributed a little bit just to losing grade 6, but it's a little bit further down than I would even think that being the case. We also wonder if the high school coming in a little later, they're just not as hungry. They can wait 2 hours for lunch. They're just not grabbing lunch, or breakfast. Breakfast seems just like the only one that's a little low, but lunch is up and they even out essentially. So we're doing the same as last year. Ideally, we would do more. So that's one of the ways I try to track. The other way is the student survey, parent surveys, really getting to know whether or not people get the information I'm trying to put out. I think that's just what we want to hear back is, we love it. We want more of X, Y, and Z. And so those surveys and feedback are probably the other reason or other thing I look at to see how we're doing. Yeah.
I have a maybe a lamer question. Is it okay if I go back for seconds?
Please go back for seconds. Go back for
It's so
thirds. Yeah,
delicious.
take it
Thank
home
you.
with you. Yeah, absolutely. Perfect.
I just want to express my appreciation for your responsiveness. I don't know how it works in other school districts, but I've consistently been impressed over the last 4 years at how responsive the food program and you in particular are to feedback from us, from parents, from students, from staff, wherever it comes from, just looking at what matters for this community and this students, the people who use the program, and reacting to it. So I just want to share that appreciation.
Thank you. I appreciate it as well. Well, enjoy your food and go get more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to our student board members report.
Thank you. So firstly, with high school, there was black and white ball last Saturday, which was a huge success. A lot of people really loved it and said it was a really fun dance. That was a dance put on by the seniors. So each year, each grade will pick one dance, and that's a dance they'll put on, and that's their big fundraising event for the year. So black and white ball is put on by the seniors, and the next one is Tolo, and that's going to be put on by the freshmen. Next week is the end of the semester, which means finals, which is a little scary, but it's always a good thing to have a little change in the year. So I'm looking forward to my new classes, and I know a lot of other students are ready to have a change. The leadership class is working on an art show with the community. So the art teacher, the band teacher, the choir teacher, all different forms of art are putting on a presentation for the school and community so people can walk through, hear our students perform, and see the different art they have created in various different materials, like ceramics to 2D art. The Queer and Trans Club is putting on the Bridgerton Ball. It was planned for, I believe, 2 weeks ago. However, there was a lot of snow on the ground, so it did get postponed. There is no official date set yet, but I know they're working on that, and they will get a new date set as soon as possible.
All right. Last week we had exchange students from Costa Rica. I hosted a student. This is the largest group of hosts and exchange students we've ever hosted. I think it was 23 students from Costa Rica total since 2009. It was really fun for the whole school when exchange students attend classes and school events. We see so many of the same people every day. It's interesting to make new friends from faraway places at your own school. It kind of changes the culture for the short week that they're here. We had a potluck Tuesday night with host families and exchange students. There was also dancing there. It was pretty fun. We also all went to Seattle, which had highlights like the Space Needle, Mopop, Pipe Pike Place, the Gum Wall, and seeing the city, which was really fun. One of the highlights of this entire ordeal was the boys and girls basketball games on Friday. This was one of the most attended games ever, and it was really fun to see Falcons and exchange students all rooting for the home team. It was also the senior night there, so that means there was parents of the players there. And also, if you know that youth cheerleading, they were all there too. So it was a huge crowd, which was really fun to see. There's definitely a lot of spirit of the game. Everything wasn't, all the Costa Rican stuff was organized by Mrs. Gokenauer and Roy Newton. They did a really good job at it. Middle school. I've started meeting monthly with the middle school to gain more insight into their school and so they can voice what's going on, as well as their concerns. One sec. The ASB and staff have been working to get the House of Representatives, students elected from advisories, more involved in the school. The ASB leadership class and House of Representatives all appreciate having a budget to decorate the Cougar Den and make it feel more like part of the middle school and less like part of the high school. There's a formal dance Friday hosted by the middle school leadership class. It's Friday, yeah. It is Northern Lights themed and it is semi-formal. The middle school jazz band is going to Vancouver for a jazz competition. They'll be staying overnight at Clark College. Winter sports 2 is starting this week with wrestling next week and girls basketball starting this week.
Over at the elementary school, we had the Falcon Buddies there again this week. It's always a really fun opportunity for us to go down and interact with the little kids and talk to them. I was helping them with multiplying decimals, which it definitely also tricks my brain, just going back and relearning a lot of the things I haven't touched since 4th or 5th grade. For their MLK service projects, they did a Good Cheer food drive, and it's great to see so many little kids getting engaged in the community. The 4th graders did a sing-along at Maple Ridge. The kindergartners made bracelets and sang for the seniors. I've got my bracelet on my backpack, but that was definitely really cute. And as a senior, it was just really great to see the class of 2030. That was a shock. Actually, I believe it was 2032. We also got some flowers that they colored for us, and that was just a really lovely moment. They're doing some trail clearing just with some of the new trails around here. They were baking cookies in the farm class to donate to Woodbury Island Nourishes. And then they created MLK quotes and watercolors to distribute to the community. So lots of good things happening this past month. There's 2 new clubs. The first is a yearbook club, and the second is a school newspaper club, which it's really great to see how many clubs are being started at the elementary school. That's something that was not around when I was younger and when all my peers were younger. So it's really great to see that that's growing. And then there's going to be a Read Your Heart Out where it will invite your families, all the families of the kids, to a school-wide reading experience. So I think that'll be really fun and everyone's looking forward to that.
Okay, thank you very much. I really love that the leadership team is taking ownership of, pushing forward the idea of the art show to bring the community into the schools. I know that that's something that's come up several times here in these meetings, and I love that y'all are working on that and pushing it forward. That's fantastic. Any other comments or questions?
I have a question about the art show, which is how can we find out more details about it?
This was the first week we've started prep on it. So as soon as I get more details, I'll share it with the board.
Great, thank you. I really appreciate the very thorough report from all grade levels. Thank you.
It was always my dream in grade school, well, and also now, to just spend a whole day reading. So, yes, that's what I was gonna say. Susie, can I join her? Can I join you?
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to public comment. Do we have any public comments here in the room? Mr. Rose?
A couple of weeks ago, I think maybe 4 weeks ago, I was talking with you folks before the meeting started, and I had a book that I was encouraging you to look at, and I'd like to re-encourage you. The title and the people, anybody that's interested in American education, which is the title of the book. It's written by a fellow named Joe Spring. He puts these out every couple of 3 years. He's a professor at a university. His great-grandparents were chiefs in a Native American tribe in Oklahoma, I believe. He's a very active guy, and this book for me is the kind of thing I wish you had known about. So when I came here to talk to you about the things that I was interested in, you could have said, take it easy, Rufus, go read this book. And then come back and talk to us. It touches on every issue that I think is on the top of most Americans' minds about public education and private education, about race relations, about sex, all that stuff. He's very current. This edition is the 21st edition, which was published started in this month. It was published in December, so it'd be available. The one that I found was the 17th edition, which was published in 1994. And he builds on what's been happening over time. It answers or touches on all the current aspects that are in the news, that are in parents' minds and grandparents' minds and taxpayers' minds. It touches on all the federal laws, the distribution of money, how it goes. It talks about things like, what is the goal of education? And there are several different goals. And it's more or less up, of course, this is for the nation. It's more or less up to the local states now and the changes that have happened over time that surprised me. I've been around for a long time. And the transfer of authority and responsibility for public schooling from local communities to the state and to the federal government is astonishing to me. And it deserves clear understanding and placing. The work you people have to do, especially the superintendent and these guys and gals back here, the administrators, are burdened with things that we, the typical public, doesn't know about and should know about. And so I had to pay, I paid about $50 for this book. I'm going to keep it. I'm not going to lend it to anybody because I'm going to refer it back. I've asked the Snow Isle Library to stock it. The process they go through, I asked that about 3 weeks ago with the last, whenever I was here after that. I called them again today and they don't know if they've done it yet. But I built a little fire under them and they're going to call me back to let me know. I told them that I thought that if they could, but one of the reasons that they may not be able to buy it is because it has a slightly textbook flavor to it. At the end of each chapter are very probing questions, the kinds of questions that historically have caused upset between you folks and the people sitting back here. And so those questions and the answers to them are left up to whoever reads this book and whoever implements what we're doing here. So I encourage you, as I did before, but with more emphasis, to buy this book for the school district. I'd buy it for each one of you and for each one of them back there. It's about $50. It's the kind of thing that once you get your own, somebody here should spend the 50 and talk to the rest of you about it. I'm doing that, but I'm not in your shoes. So I don't see the same things the way you people see them. I'd like to, and I'd like you to see them more the way I see them. This book will help that considerably, in my opinion. I brought a couple of other documents here. I think your librarians, maybe, I don't say, this is the kind of thing the typical grandparent or daddy doesn't know. How do you go about doing these things? I think this is a hell of a book to have in your library. That's time's up, I guess. I'd like to give, there are two other papers, I'll take another 30 seconds. Barry Weiss was the journalist who resigned from the New York Times several years ago because she was not allowed to publish. And she's very concerned. She was an editor in the editorial staff. And she quit and wrote a very interesting paper. She writes more papers. I want to give these to the superintendent and the chairman of your board, asking you to read them and comment back to me about what you think about the appropriateness of the kind of challenge Ms. Weiss puts out. The subject is one you're not going to like. The title is End DEI, and her thinking about it. It's very much consistent with the reason she resigned her position with the New York Times.
Thank you for sharing about the book again. And I know it is on my list to get to. I'm glad to hear that the Snow Isle Library System is working on that. I'd love to hear when they have it in.
Thank you
so
for
I
the
can check that.
opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you. Are there any other folks looking to comment in person? I see nothing in the Q&A. So we will move on from public comment to our new business item. We have a single new business item, Memorandum 2324-20, approval of the adoption of WASDA Model Policy 1240 committees as amended. I'm going to turn it over to Director Greenherron here to talk a little bit about what we did at the last meeting and what we're looking at.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you everybody for your feedback at the workshop. So this is an amended version that addresses the feedback that we came up with at the workshop. Namely, the title differentiates it from policy 4110, which is citizens committees, and also the language between the two policies, I feel, is in harmony. And then it clarifies a few things that we felt were a little unclear: who can be on committees, how they're appointed, what's the responsibility of a committee when a committee is disbanded. And I want to especially call out a community member, Mr. Rose, who gave a number of great pieces of feedback. One was that reports must be in writing, so there'll be a paper trail of the deliberations and recommendations of each committee. The other piece of feedback I ended up not incorporating about minority reports. My concern was that minority reports may hamper a sense of reaching conclusions among a committee. Instead, I would encourage committees to present multiple options, starting with their recommended option, and then some other options that were perhaps not as popular to the committee, so that the board can make a decision from a menu of options.
One of the methods of recommendation that I love is we looked at these 5 things and we think that these 2 are both good. We like this one because of this and this one because of this, because that lets us make a choice beyond looking at what's been recommended. So I appreciate that way of looking at that. Thank you. Any comments or questions or anything along those lines for this policy?
Thank you very much for your work on this. My only comment would be that there are aspects of inclusion of people with different learning styles and different preferences for how to give and receive information that may be limited by the requirement that recommendations be in writing. For instance, a video presentation or a audiovisual presentation may be a viable way to present some content. I would suggest that there be some kind of artifact, whether it be a written piece or a video or a slideshow or something that can accompany a recommendation. I'm not sure it should be written, but I'm not opposed to the language.
How would you feel about recommendations must be documented?
That for me feels like it leaves the creative freedom for multimedia presentations when that's the most appropriate option. Thank you.
I'd like,
Before we see any amendments, is there any other discussion to be had so we can just keep amendments to a minimum? Anything from our students on this? I mean, we talked it out last time, so, okay.
I'd like to make an amendment to replace the words in writing with the word documented.
Okay, we will start with, we have an amendment on the floor. I'll look to our student representatives for an advisory vote, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All those in favor of the amendment to replace in writing with documented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. The amendment has passed. The note is that one thing to note as we were discussing this is other committee members will usually, if not always, include or usually include community members, staff members, students. That's how you fill out the rest of the committee, and that is up to the superintendent to select those members.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I didn't make that clear. So there will be a new accompanying procedure 1240 to go with policy 1240 that would outline in detail exactly what you just said, how committees should be formed, or how members can join committees to make sure that they're equitable and representative of all constituent groups. And procedure is the right place for stuff like that.
Excellent. All right. Sorry, okay. All those in favor of approving memorandum 2324-20. Oh, yes. Thank you, Director Johnson. Can I have an advisory vote on the amended memorandum?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. All those in favor of approving memorandum 2324-20, approval of the adoption of WASDA model policy 1240 committees as amended to include the documented language, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. The memorandum has been approved as amended. We'll move on to our reports, our financial enrollment report, actually. So, Mr. Pullman.
We'll also start with the annual information to the board as far as what the mileage reimbursement rate is. We follow the IRS rate, and it has gone up 1.5 cents to 67 cents. So you have been informed of that. So we start with enrollment. This will be our January enrollment report. Year to date, we are at approximately 1,104, so slightly down from our 1106 budget, and that is excluding TK because they were not budgeted in there. We have about 15.5 in that particular program. And then our special education is a little higher than our budgeted amount. The CTE vocational program slightly less, and the bilingual is slightly above. But we're fairly close in most categories. Just a quick look by month, and you can see the changes by grade and also by month. And this is how we get our annual average, is we will continue this through June. So every month we average the previous number of months. So currently we are at almost 1120, including the 15.4 average for the TK. It also will give you any changes for the month and then a plus or minus for your budget amount to see which grade groups might be below or above what we thought we were going to have last spring. And this is just a building look by month. So the TK program, they're at 15 currently. They started with 16, average of 15.4. K5s at about 427, so they're about 5 above their budget. 6, 8, 9, 12, slightly below the budgeted amount. But the ALE is about a half below where we thought they'd be. So overall, we're up about 13.75, but that's because of that TK program. And just to look at the last few years and kind of the enrollment pattern we see as we look at enrollment on a monthly basis, you can see that this year has been fairly flat. There hasn't been a lot of change to it. I don't expect much change until we move into the second semester and see if there's a change predominantly at the secondary level. But it gives you the last 5 years, kind of the pattern we've seen in the different enrollment levels. Just a graph looking at the last 4 months, basically, or 5 months, I guess, now by grade, what changes might be happening as we move through the school year. And this one just looks at it by year, and you can see the red is the current year, which is slightly below, the previous 3 years that we are graphing here. So it gives you that pattern of where we're going and a potential looking at what the next few months might be based on previous experience. Finances is as of December 31st. We're a third of the way through the fiscal year, starts in September. So we would expect our revenue and our expenditures to be about a third of the annual amount. And we're roughly at that point. It's about 32.5% in both revenue and expenditures. But even though the percentage is similar, you will notice that the expenditures are about $200,000 more than revenue at this time, which is in our budget plan. We anticipated it to be $600,000 to $800,000 with a fund balance use. So we've used 200,000 of that a third of the way through. So I feel comfortable with that. The bottom left is revenue by month, and it shows the last 3 years. You can see the point for this one is that our revenue really hasn't changed. Even as the inflationary factors go up, the actual dollar amount we receive remains about the same. On the right is the expenditure by month. We're very similar to last year. It's the timing of when we pay some of our MSOC things fluctuates what that looks like. But it gives you that pattern that it kind of ramps up as we go over time, as we move into the spring. And then want to look at total expenditures with a kind of a multi-year look at it to see how we're doing. And you can see that we're actually down from the previous 2 years, which was part of the plan, though it is substantially above where we had been previously. The big dip is, the COVID year, we closed down at a lot less expenses, so that one I would ignore. But you can kind of see that typical pattern of that expenditure increase over time, and then go back and look at the revenue. It didn't increase. So when we start talking about our budgeting and why we have to make changes, this is kind of the big picture of it. And this is just a look at what we call object codes, the main kind of areas that we spend money in, salaries, benefits, supplies, services, and travel. And you can see that most of those are down except for services. And again, we've talked about that previously, the cost of insurance, the cost of utilities, things that we don't have a lot of control over that are dramatically going up, while the funding from OSPI for MSOCs hasn't matched that same change. So when you talk to legislators, this is, an important piece of what we're looking at a district level. Including encumbrances, we're about 91% of our budget, 19,348,000. And you can see that the MSOCs, or the non-employee costs, are about half of the budget used so far. Normally those aren't encumbered. Payroll normally is. I also wanted to look at how does that percentage compare to previous years with encumbrances at this time of the year. And again, it's a moving target because of the way we do things. But you can see that in 2018-19, we were almost 92% of our budget was encumbered by this time. And then we dropped in the COVID years, and now we're up to about 91% again. You can see that it has risen a little bit over time, and that's because we're spending more money on payroll, and we encumber payroll, as opposed we don't encumber, paper we're going to buy and things we don't know until we actually purchase them. So you would expect to see an increase in that percentage as a larger part of your budget becomes encumberable through the payroll process, because we do the entire year. And then the encumbrance just decreases on a monthly basis as we actually make that payroll. And this is just our revenue versus expenditure. Again, I've probably said this a million times. It's why we have a fund balance, because you can see that there are months that are the majority that our expenditures are greater than our revenue at that time. We have those 2 big levy months. So we get collections from the local levy that are those high peaks. But normally, most of the time, we have higher expenditures. Budget status report just gives you the fact that, we have generated $6.7 million. We spent 6.9. And our fund balance is about 4.9 million. Balance sheet, just another way of looking at the same thing in assets and liabilities across all funds. And then fund balance, it's actually holding fairly solid, even though we did spend $200,000 more so far. We're still, holding a solid fund balance in there. And then the other funds that we have, capital projects, almost $2.7 million in there. Debt service, there will be no payment now until June, which most of that will be dispersed at that time, and that will be the last payment we will make on this. And then ASB is about 103,000. Transportation vehicle funds, we got $681,000 in there. We're still waiting for that school bus. So hopefully soon it'll be here and we'll actually make a payment. That's about $400,000 for that. And then the private purpose trust fund, which is for scholarships from money donated by the community, is at almost $809,000. Any questions I could answer for you?
I'm assuming that you're poking at the folks who are trying to deliver the bus just to see what's taken it so long. I know there's not a whole lot you can do, but just continuing to be a nuisance to them, I assume.
Yeah, yeah. There's nothing you do about buses. They always, no matter if it's electric or diesel, they take a long time to receive.
Okay. Anything else?
I want to say thanks again for the excellent work.
Yeah, I appreciate being able to look ahead with this and have some expectation of what to see coming up and then seeing that coming up. So I appreciate that very much. Thank you. We'll move on to superintendent's report. Dr. Moshe. No, this is a meeting of the school board in public. If you have questions of Dan, you can arrange a time to talk to him. I'll let you do that outside of this meeting. Dr. Moshe.
Thank you. Wanted to let the board know that actually Marnie Jackson was there as well in her other role, but I participated in Island County Community Partner meeting this week, and the discussion involved many agencies, and we met in Coupeville, focused on a variety of issues, but mostly it was related to improving the quality of life in a variety of areas. So that took an afternoon. Today we had the third meeting of the bond design team, talking about moving projects forward for this summer. Just a reminder to the school board that on the 28th of February, we will have firms presenting as the finalists for owner representatives. So that'll take place on February 28th. We do anticipate, though it is hopefully we'll get some projects going this summer. The biggest obstacle is actually not just determining what projects, but getting permits for those projects. It's notoriously difficult at the county level to get them in a timely way. So hopefully we'll move forward with some projects this summer. I was able to participate as part of the selection team for the next ESD superintendent. There were a few superintendents on that team, and finalists were moved forward for interview with their board. So they'll have a new superintendent effective July 1. That Educational Service District 189, located in Anacortes, we are one of 35 districts that participate in that. So it's an important process to help select the next superintendent. I am looking forward to visiting the Snow Isle Tech Center with the board on February 7th. So just want to make sure you have that in your calendars for that visit. And that's really all I had for an update.
Thank you very much. I did want to note one thing from the bond work, that the timeline was looking at hopefully 3 summers. So not a hugely extended process. And that was news to me. So I wanted to share that with the community as well. Thank you very much, Dr. Moshe. We'll move on to legislative report. Director Jackson.
Thank you. Well, we will be traveling as a delegation down to Olympia, many of us. I understand that Director Downs can't join us, but that the rest of the folks up here at the table will be traveling to Olympia the 28th and 29th of January. So we're going to going to have a day with Washington Association of School Administrators, WASA, Washington's School Directors Association, WASDA, Washington State School Directors Association, WASDA, and is it WASA and WASDA or WASA, WASDA, and WASBO? Washington Association of School Business Officers. We'll be receiving some inspiration and coaching on how to be effective in asking for the most important things from our legislators for all of Washington State's public school students. And then on Monday, we'll be having some meetings with our elected officials. Our little delegation has meetings set up with Senator Muzzall and Representatives Paul and Shavers, and we'll also be sitting in on some committee hearings. So that'll be an exciting opportunity to ask for the big dream, which is ample, stable, and equitable public school funding, general funding. Also asking for our legislators to raise that artificial cap on special education funding and fund important things like transportation and nutrition for our students. So we're looking forward to being there, and we'll report back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Jackson. Anything else from the board?
Since our last meeting, I did a school tour of the elementary school, and I'm happy to report that I'm once again just amazed by the dedication of the students and the high quality of the teachers to teach them. It was just a really great tour. And also I want to thank Director Jackson for setting up those meetings with our elected officials. I know they're very hard to schedule meetings with, but those meetings are very effective at lobbying for the ample funding of our state's paramount duty.
Thank you very much. Okay. Good night, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.